However, the challenges I faced primarily were, number one, I did not have as much experience as I got into it. And it's something that I had to really learn very quickly. And I could not afford to simply wait to get into it or simply wait to learn as the years rolled by. I had to really push myself out there, engage with people, engage in meetings, engage in sessions, meet qualified experts, pick their brains out and sort of understand all the metrics that engage in this industry. Finance is also a challenge. However, I tried to make do what I had at that point in time, simply because you can never I always say that you have what you need to do what you need to do.
And another thing is, when you, as young as us, as Gen Z, there's a lot of skepticism that we face. Oh, you're too young. Oh, he's too naive. He won't be able to do it. Why should I back him? Those questions will always arise, and these challenges need to be met with the same level of force that they give you, right? So you need to always prove yourself. As young as we are, and in business, no matter what age you get to, what stage you get to, you always have to prove yourself to someone else. As much as you believe in your idea, as much as you can make others believe in your idea, you need to have the confidence to push forward.
Some degrees like economics, finance, all of these, they're very popular. And I would even go as far as to say, a bit of a false sentiment around these degrees, thinking, oh, the moment I've graduated with an economics degree or a finance degree, I'm going to get a job like that, or I'm going to have all the skills I need to take the next step in my career. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think everybody has their own unique strengths. I know growing up in school, for some reason, a lot of teachers used to tell us, okay, you're good at something, great, but make sure that your weaknesses aren't pulling you down. Like, you need to work on your weaknesses as well to get that good at, be an all-rounder, be good at everything. I don't believe in that. I think you need to leverage your strengths. There's a certain ceiling that you'll reach when you try to be a bit of an all-rounder, or you focus too much on your weaknesses. But if you try and focus all your energy on your strengths, then you can really be outstanding.
Hello viewers, this is Ananya Pal, founder and CEO of Startup Shujaa. Our today's episode of Roundtable is very special because today's Roundtable is with Gen Z's, corporate professionals and entrepreneurs. And I have three very interesting guests with me today who represent corporate professional and also entrepreneurship. I will introduce them one by one. With me today is Quest Muanga. He is a final year student of US International University Africa, and at the same time he's already a budding entrepreneur. He is into financial learning space, and he has his own consultancy which he has founded named Wealth Wave Institution, which is for community learning for youth in the financial sector, and also to train them for wealth creation. On my other side, it is Parth Gupta. He is also a final year undergrad student in US International University Africa, but he is also a budding entrepreneur. He has a startup project, very interesting one, that it is in a pre-seed level at now, which is a tech-enabled edutech project. And there is a lady sitting next to me. She is Adishri Pal. She is a corporate professional. She is a HR analyst working with European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. I welcome all of you in this podcast.
Thank you very much.
So I would like to start with Quest to you. So you are still in the final year of university, but yet you already have a startup project which has already been launched, is successfully running. So I would like to ask from you that did you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? And also if it was so, was it a natural choice for you, or it was a calculated decision or a kind of emotional decision? Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. On my end, entrepreneurship has been something which I would say I was able to build up the skill set without realizing, and I grew into it. So when I was in college, in my first year, I found as if that college was really giving me the skills, the knowledge, and really giving me the foundational aspects, but I had nowhere to put into practicality. So I felt as if I could do more with what is available to me. I've always had that tenacity in which whatever is available to you should be able to create more and do more. So venturing into entrepreneurship was something that I really got into it without a plan. I'll be brutally honest, simply because I took a leap of faith. I took a step into uncharted waters, and I just simply learned the process as I went along, simply rolling with the punches. So as I was establishing myself, as I was growing in the industry, it's something that I simply grew into it. However, I'd say I had the foundational points, the foundational structure to get into it. That was gifted to me by my parents. The learning curve, I've been able to witness them because they are into entrepreneurship despite being into employment, as well as just from life experiences. I say I like to approach life as like being a sponge. Everything you go through, you learn as quickly as possible and you adapt into it.
One thing that comes out from what you are saying is that you are adventurous and you don't mind taking risk, going into a path which is unbeaten, which is very, very commendable. Because I personally feel, unless you take a path unbeaten or you take a certain risk, you don't know what you are actually capable of, how much you can really stretch yourself, which is absolutely coming out from what you are saying. Then I would like to ask you another thing, that it's not easy. The entrepreneurial journey is not easy. Because in Startup Shujaa, we get mentees whom we mentor, guide. So what are the challenges that you faced in this journey of till you established your own startup? And I'm sure you still have your share of challenges. Yeah, so if you can just talk about it a little.
Wow. Challenges, they are as prominent as they come. I say for me, when I was beginning, the first thing was experience. In this industry, it's an industry where you find individuals who have been in it for 30 years, 50 years even. I kid you not. So how do you even quantify yourself? How do you even elaborate yourself that, number one, I am someone who can be able to compete, not only engage, but compete in this industry? Second and foremost is a matter of lack of capital as well. In the finance industry, it's ideally how much are you able to invest determines how much you'll be able to get in returns back. And also just simply logistical aspects is that, number one, you'll always be limited in resources. However, the challenges I faced primarily were, number one, I did not have as much experience as I got into it. And it's something that I had to really learn very quickly. And I could not afford to simply wait to get into it or simply wait to learn as the years rolled by. I had to really push myself out there, engage with people, engage in meetings, engage in sessions, meet qualified experts, pick their brains out and sort of understand all the metrics that engage in this industry. Finance is also a challenge. However, I tried to make do what I had at that point in time, simply because you can never I always say that you have what you need to do what you need to do. So I had to simply learn from that and engage from that. And beyond that is the aspect about marketing also. Because I think with entrepreneurship, you still realize that you are the one-man team, one-man army. You're the CEO, you're the marketer, you're the secretary, you're the salesperson. So sort of balancing all that, as well as also balancing my academics, was a very big challenge at the beginning. However, as I grew into it, it's simply things that you learn and you simply develop along the way.
Oh, that's great. And you sound so confident, Quest. I'm so proud of you. Because people like you, youth like you, are the future of not only this country, but globally. I feel you are the future. And I feel so great talking to you. You give that feeling of confidence. And it only can come from hard work. And I can see how much hard work you are putting into it. And I all the best to you for that. So next, I would like to come to you, Path. So I got to know you as you approached me for some guidance for your project. And let me tell you now, I did not tell you earlier. When you came to meet me, the first thing that I really liked was you were so punctual. You said 3 p.m. and you came dot at 3 p.m. And I really appreciated it, because value of time is something. Time is very valuable, and those who value it, they go much ahead in their life. And when you discussed your project with me, then also I felt that you are so confident and you know exactly what you want to do. So to you also, I would like to ask that how this when did you think that I want to be an entrepreneur? Because you are just a final year student of undergrad course, so you are very young and you have already determined that you want to be an entrepreneur, and you have done some small ventures earlier also, and which were successful, I know that. So if you can just tell me how what was the drive for you to come into it?
Thank you so much for having me here today. So when we look at entrepreneurship, especially as me, I'm very young. So you look at the steps that what do you really want to achieve in life? As much as we're all young, we have a goal. And this goal can only be achieved through the steps you take in life. So when it comes into looking towards business, since I was young, since I was in year 7, that means I was around 12, 13 years old, I've been selling things. I've been selling slime in school. I've been selling silly bands, anything that could make me money. So it's always been the drive that I want to build something that can last, not something that is here today and gone tomorrow, something that will always be here for my family and for everyone to look at and be proud of. So that is the main drive, and it's not emotional, nor is it conscious. It's a mix of both, because consciously I've always looked at businesses and I'm thinking, what's the value they're bringing? How is the money coming in? How is the money coming out? So consciously, I'm always engaging. Any establishment I walk into, I'm always trying to analyze, where has the money come from? Where is the money going? Those kind of things. And emotionally, see, I've always wanted to be a top level entrepreneur since I was a child. It's in my mind. I've seen my parents, they both work. And my sister too, she's also in Australia, she also works. And is that driving force that you want to break that chain? You want to break that chain to now take your family to another level. So emotionally, it's very important to me that I build something that goes beyond a legacy.
I can relate to what you're saying, because as you said that there is a balance of both, like conscious decision, your logical mind, at the same time emotion, because you need to be passionate in what you are doing. Unless and until you do that, you really cannot go beyond a certain level. I also relate to it because I am very passionate in whatever I do. And as you were saying that wherever you go, you have that eye or thinking that how this enterprise is working, what is the revenue model. I remember when I was very small, from that time only, I used to do the same. It used to come to me naturally that, if this guy is doing so well, what is his revenue model? And what are the things? Yeah, I can relate to it, and I see that spark in you, Path. And even to you, I would like to ask that what are the challenges you are facing? Because I know you are at a pre-seed level right now. So what are the challenges you are facing?
So just from personal experience, not long ago, I was doing a sales job I was selling for a company. They sell property in Dubai. And I was good at it. I was able to sell. And once you now come into doing your own startup, right, you face the challenges. Because when you're a gay salesman, you think, why should I still work for this company? I'm doing all the work. But once you start your own business, you realize you don't have the marketing team. You don't have the finance team. You don't have the accounting team behind you that they have. As much as you are good at sales, running a business is a whole different story. And another thing is, when you're as young as us, as Gen Z, there's a lot of skepticism that we face. Oh, you're too young. Oh, he's too naive. He won't be able to do it. Why should I back him? Those questions will always arise, and these challenges need to be met with the same level of force that they give you, right? So you need to always prove yourself. As young as we are, and in business, no matter what age you get to, what stage you get to, you always have to prove yourself to someone else. As much as you believe in your idea, as much as you can make others believe in your idea, you need to have the confidence to push forward. So there's many challenges that arise. For example, most of us will probably be studying. How do you balance your academics? How do you balance your your friends' time, your family time. All these things come into it. So you have to make sacrifices. You really do. You're going to skip the parties. You're going to skip all the things that are fun just to focus on your goal so that once you get older, you can now enjoy the things. So those ones are challenges that we always face. Picking the right decision, basically. What do you have to do and when?
Yeah, even there, as you said, it is so valuable that you have to make sacrifices to go that extra path. That what others are doing, you are sacrificing that so that you can be, focused in your goal. And what you are saying also resonating the same. Because unless you make these sacrifices, neither you can go that extra mile, nor people will take you seriously. And yes, I personally always have been a flag bearer of the youth, because I always feel you are the future, and it is our duty to take you seriously and guide you wherever it is needed. That's why I do not like people of my generation who has a tendency to, in the first thing, to undermine people just because they are young. I am dead against that. So yes, and I'm sure with this kind of confidence that you both are showing, and a lot of people who come to me in Startup Shujaa also, I've seen the youth has immense potential, especially in Kenya. Literacy level is so high. The youth has immense potential, and with that potential, we can do anything. So, in fact, the roundtable before this was with industry experts, where it was tech projects that we were talking about, and we discussed about AI powered tech projects. And to make it AI powered, it is very expensive in Kenya, because you get all these softwares from outside, and to develop that becomes expensive for us. Then both the tech experts told me that, Ananya, we have the resource, our youth are capable to develop it on their own. If it is homegrown, the price will abruptly go down. So that potential is there in any field. And I'm so happy and glad that some young entrepreneurs like Parth and Quest, you are taking it very seriously from very beginning to be in this entrepreneurial journey, in startup journey. Then only it will become impactful, and some other youth who will see you, they will get encouraged and they will come into it. So that's actually a very, very I would say positive way forward. So from there, I will deviate a little bit and come to you, Adhishi, because you are a corporate professional, and a lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs. At the same time, some are young professionals also. So you always wanted to be a corporate professional, and you started you decided your career path accordingly. So you did your undergrad in finance from Leeds Business School. Then you qualified as a professional from Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development from UK. Then you did your master's from London School of Economics, and now you work with a very prominent financial institution as HR analyst. So how, and we know that right now job market in London is very, very challenging, especially for those who are not UK citizen. You are not UK citizen. You went there to study. So how did you strategize your this career journey?
Well, firstly, thank you for your kind words. I think we, as very young people, I think we have to start sort of thinking about what we want to do in our future at a fairly young age. I know that I had to pick what I wanted to do at undergrad at the age of 17. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I just thought about it in the way of what will help me have the most amount of options in my future. And I think financial literacy is just something that anybody can benefit from. I didn't necessarily think that I studied accounting and finance. I didn't necessarily think that I wanted to end up as an accountant, but I thought that it was a good foundational course. So I think one of the first things we can do is, even if we don't know the answers, try and mitigate and strategize in a way that, you pick a direction that gives you as many options as possible. And then after that, I mean, I'm an HR professional now, like you said, and I was actually doing an internship at a consulting firm as a management consultant when I realized that I identify the most with the HR side of things. And I think internships are a really good avenue to get exposure in the corporate world. And a lot of internships also offer not just specialized exposure to specific departments or skill sets, but they give you exposure, sort of a 360 kind of an outlook. And yeah, that's when I realized that HR is a bit more for me. So once I graduated from my undergrad, I took 2 years out on my graduate route visa to try and secure a job within HR itself. I never actually got into the financial field because I knew what I wanted to do. And alongside, I started studying for my professional qualification, which is CIPD. And I think that always goes a long way. Even I think having part qualifications on your CV demonstrates to your employer that you're working towards something and trying to get a deeper knowledge in the subject area that you're wanting to work in. Yeah, and then after that, I mean, it's a bit of what Parth and Quest said. You do have to roll with the punches a little bit, and you make the most of what you can get. I would be lying if I said I knew exactly what I wanted to do from the beginning, and I've gotten where I want to be in a straight beeline A to B kind of a path. It hasn't been that. There's been a lot of zigzagging, but I think I've always been a bit of a planner. So whatever zigzags I have taken, I've tried to mitigate and strategize in a way that I can always pivot back to where I want to be.
Yeah, so what I would like to know further from you is securing, right after your undergrad, you got a job with a very good company also there. Though it was fresh from your graduation, so it was not in a very senior level, but you started in HR only. So you were focused that, okay, HR is my line, so you took a job in that line only. You did not go for anything else because you graduated from Leeds Business School, so you could have gone for any finance job, but you did not go for that. Why I'm saying all this? Because a lot of time, we get defocused, that we don't know exactly where we stand and what we should take. That's why I'm coming to highlighting on this. And then even when you went for London School of Economics, and then after you finished your course, you actually secured the job before your result came out. So what was the strategy when you started applying for job? Now it was a mid-level job. Now you are in a mid-level job. So what was there any strategy, or you planned something, or you just randomly applied? I don't think you did randomly apply or anything. Can you just tell about the strategy? Because it can help a lot of our viewers. That's why I'm insisting.
I think market research is the first step for everything. So the summer after I graduated from my undergrad degree, I knew I didn't want to be in the financial field. I wasn't necessarily sure which direction I should take in order to get a foot in the door with HR. So what I did first was I researched job advertisements for all kinds of levels. So starting from the very bottom all the way up. And then I tried to analyze and see what's common there. And the one thing I saw that was common, and especially the thing that propelled career progression, was the CIPD degree. So the first thing I did was enroll there. And the second thing is, I think whether you're pivoting or whether you've been set on the profession you want to be from the beginning, I think there's value in starting from the bottom up. So that's what I did. I figured it would be easier for me to break into the industry if I start from the bottom and then work my way up, get my skills in, get my experience, education in. And yeah, so after my undergrad, that's what I did. I did a bit of, research and figured out what would help me take the next steps. And then while I was working, I always knew I wanted to progress in my career. So I started looking at what other people were doing in order to progress, how many years I would need to put into a certain thing. And also after how many years I should no longer remain in a sort of bottom of the rung kind of a position. And so what I found was 2 years in my first job made the most sense. And then it was time for me to move on. And I felt that a master's degree from a place like LSE, which would also give me a full professional accreditation, made the most sense at the time. Academically, for the rigor, for the critical thinking skills that I would gain, but also for the networking. And obviously going from a city like Leeds, which is a very big city in the UK, but moving from somewhere like that to London, it is a very big, it's a different ball game, I think, and you get a lot more exposure to a lot of very interesting, very accomplished people. So that was a driving force as well. And then having done the job search process the first time around after my undergrad degree and working for a while with professionals who'd been in the industry for a while, I kind of knew what I think employers were looking at. Also have a bit of a cheat sheet because I literally work in HR, so I know what employers look for in terms of CVs, in terms of interview skills and all of that. So I knew that if I want to not have too much of a gap between me graduating and starting to work, I sketched out a bit of a timeline for myself in terms of thinking, okay, so my final exams are somewhere in July. My dissertation's due in July. I need to start applying for jobs a couple months in advance because obviously the job market anywhere really, and especially in the UK, is very much a numbers game. So to try and apply to as many places as I can and allow myself a bit of space to breathe and not be completely stressed out, I started applying for places 2 months in advance and then interviewing. And I mean, I do need to acknowledge I got very lucky that, it stuck. I got a really good job in an industry that I wanted. The other thing I think I would say is it's very important to know what you're not willing to settle for. So I think for example, living in London, the cost of living is very high. So I tried to reverse engineer how much money I would need in a month to comfortably live. And I was very clear on I'm not going to renege on, really going for anything less than that. Also, I think somewhere, not being arrogant, but knowing your value. I do have a master's degree from a very good institution. I have a professional degree. I knew what I could ask for and what kind of levels of jobs I should go for. And like I said, I got fairly lucky in the timeline of things, but I would encourage viewers to hold out a little bit, not go for the first sort of whatever comes your way if it's not exactly what you want, because I really do believe that you can get your ideal sort of job or your dream job if you just, strategize, manifest and work towards it.
So one thing is common in all three of you is that confidence that I can see. That even she talked about confidence. So when you work hard and you exactly know what you want in your life, that confidence comes automatically. So, and then you touched upon that doing a market research, that even for a job, you did a market research before you started applying, not randomly applying for just things. So, on that note, I would come to you, Quest, that when you were developing your project, so that time, what were the preparations you took and what level of market research did you do?
Okay. So when I was getting into starting up this whole project and ensuring that something that can be sustainable, as my counterpart Bart said, we always want to build something that will outlast us. And that is the whole vision beyond entrepreneurship. If we were in it for 2-3 years, it will be the whole purpose of it. So I sat myself down, started and looked what is there in Kenya, especially in the financial industry. There's a lot of institutions, a lot of establishments that are very corporate. However, there's none that really comes and applies or really comes to really touch the youth and engage with them on a peer-to-peer level. So my aim was to set up something very community-based. So I had to do intensive market research. Also in the aspect of, entrepreneurship is something that's always reinventing itself. You can never stop doing market research. Even at this point, we're in the space of getting into the digital education platform. Okay. So we're having to always re-engineer ourselves, reinvent ourselves. But what we needed to do is sit down, analyze what is being done. How effective is it? Is it really solving the issue at hand? Because entrepreneurship is very simply, how can you solve a problem people have as quickly and as cheaply as possible, I would say, in that aspect. So it took a bit of time. We found out that the most realistic way we could do is, first of all, starting with our peers, our friends, engaging various universities. We have engaged with USIU Africa. We've engaged with Strathmore. We've also engaged with University of Nairobi in having various conferences with them, and realizing that this is a way that we can really spread the message, or spread the whole aspect of community-based learning in the financial industry. So that's, I would say, it's never stopping. Market research or market learning is something that always has to happen on a continuous basis.
Yes, it is such an important thing, and coming from such a young person like you, because I keep telling whenever I take master classes or even with the mentors, mentees when I am interacting, that market research is very, very important, and it is an ongoing process. As you were saying, it should never stop, because market volatility, the equations keep changing. It's very volatile market nowadays, and things keep changing. So you have to remain agile, to keep your business agile. You have to keep learning. You have to keep doing market research. So what you are saying absolutely makes so much of sense, and no wonder that in such a short time you are doing so well. You have already got so many clients, and you are doing so well. So from there, I'll come to you, Path, because I don't want to talk too much about your project, reveal too much, because it is at a PCT level. But at the same time, I would say the your project, it is a very distinguished path where people, the kind of learning that people can get from there will be very practical and job oriented. That much I understood from whatever knowledge I have. So how much of market research has gone into it, and how I'm sure you are still doing it.
Yeah.
The research is still on.
Yeah.
So if you can just talk about it a little bit.
So I think if you look at research, I think your idea is only as good as your research. Why I say that is because how my idea started out was in the most random way possible. I had attended a workshop, a design thinking workshop, and there I came up. I was speaking with a few of my peers who are all younger than me, but they were still my peers. But they still told me that I don't know if I want to study economics. I don't know if I want to study HR. I don't know if I want to do it. So I just thought, that's why I said consciously thinking how businesses build value. I started thinking, why not build a center where students can come in and have a simulation of that job to see if that's what they really want to study. That's the idea. Now the research behind that, is that really feasible? No, it's not, because how do you convince someone coming into a simulation that that's exactly what the job is going to be? Are they going to take it seriously? So that's research helped me realize this is the wrong path that I'm going into. More research, and then you find out that there's people who are offering virtual internships. There's companies out there which are giving you virtual internships. You do those internships because you as the entrepreneur, you need to test your competitor. You really do. That's another basis of your research. Find out what they do. I did a few of their courses and I realized that it's just a money grab. You do what you have to do. You can write A, B, C, D. As long as you pay $35, you have a certificate from a very well-reputed institution. The more research I do, I now find out that there has to be a better way. In Kenya, many employers are struggling with two things: work ethic with the Gen Zs, and secondly, the skills that the Gen Zs and other people have who are in the job market. Because it's such a big challenge to train them for 3 months, pay them for 3 months, and at the same time you're losing efficiency as a company. So as you keep learning about your own project, you get to know that there's so many things you can do that can really help other people. For example, when we look at my project, we're trying to equip people with practical skills, and these skills are tested via our human experts who are going to be teaching the course. It's going to be assessed step by step to actually make sure that the student is able to learn. He's able to gain the skills. And then when he goes to the market, he's able to apply them. Because when we come from university, it's all theory, unfortunately. You're just taught what the basis of the theory is, how to apply it in pre-done scenarios, not what you're going to face in the future. So coming back onto, I think research is the foundation. Without research, you have no idea, right? Because research will bring you clarity. That clarity is very important in business, in any startup, in anything you want to do, you need clarity. Like, yes, when I do this, this is what I can expect, right? When you go in with no research, you just take a shot in the dark.
Yes, and as I always emphasize, two factors which you actually, I'm so happy that you are also applying that, is that first is very important to know your competitors. Because whatever unique you think your project is, nothing is that unique that there is no one here around which is not something similar to yours. It may not be exactly yours, but something similar. But we must know our competitors, and then only we know what is their strength over me or what is my strength over them. So that you have taken care of, which I am so happy to know that you have done. And another thing is constantly evaluating your own project dispassionately, because what happens, your project, your idea is your own creation. We are human, so we get biased about it. So being dispassionately trying to evaluate it is something is very, very important for any entrepreneur. Should do it, and you are just reflecting those thoughts, and I am so happy about it. So as they are talking about their the market research and their the kind of things they're doing for establishing their project, I will come to you to talk about the management team, because in startups, often even investors look at it through how good the management team is, how skilled the management team is, simply because we who are supposedly industry experts, we believe that management team has a lot to do with the performance of the startups. And startup means there is more risk attached to it than regular enterprises. So from HR perspective, if you can tell us your take, that how important is the role of management, the team of management in enterprises, especially in startups?
Yeah, of course. I think Quest touched upon this earlier, that the management team, maybe even the founder of startups, they tend to be sort of the CEO, HR, marketing person, everything. So they really set the tone and the culture for the company itself. They're the face of the company. And I think being the face of the company, that's what the investors look at. So obviously they look at business plans, they look at the numbers, but they'll also look at the management team, and they'll try and assess operational risk. They'll try and see risk appetite. They'll try and see financial competency by interacting with the management team. And in fact, even in financial institutions, when they evaluate whether they will give, startups loans, SMEs loans, there's always the due diligence process. It always has one which is just interacting and interviewing the leadership team to try and see what their vision for the project is, to try and gauge how deep their understanding of the industry is, of the product or the service that they're selling. So yeah, I would say it's make or break, really.
Yes, absolutely. Like the management team and their credential actually speaks a lot about the viability of the startup project. Yes, because understanding what you're doing and the skills that the management team brings, that's very, very important. Yes. So I would now go to another aspect of entrepreneur journey, that is compliance. So Quest, I will start with you, that as an entrepreneur yourself, how important do you think compliance with Companies Act, compliance with KRA, those compliance with governance and those things, how important do you think it is? And do you really think that you should be taking care of it from the day one, or your personal opinion is that okay, we can do it a little later when my business is kind of stable? What's your take on it?
Okay. So compliance is something very, very important. My own opinion is that it's the structure of how your business will grow. For example, here in Kenya, if you were to establish a business, you have to be compliant. In any way, there's no way you'll ever proceed. Even if you start at the beginning and you do become successful, you'll find that failing to align yourself or to just pay attention to this small thing can become your biggest hurdle as you proceed. So I would say, tell me to under structure. as you're establishing a business, establishing your startup in any way or form, have a structure into it. And I would say there's a lot of ignorance, I would say, attached to it simply because we lack knowledge on it. Because very few people tell us about it, and we fail to really look deep into it and only realize it when now we're in problems or now in issues. So for me, my own personal journey is that I was establishing myself, growing until I realized that, okay, when I approached my parents about this idea, they did ask me, okay, are you compliant? And I was like, oh, that's something I completely ignored simply because I was simply immersed in the day-to-day runnings of my business. I was like, I've achieved this task, the next thing. I realized that there has to be a certain structure to it. And I would say compliance in Kenya is very, very important. Also not only in Kenya, globally as well.
Globally.
Yes, because if you'd want even to attract the big investor, to attract the big companies, people who would look into your business and say, okay, I could work with this. No one will ever work with an individual. That is something that no one will ever come and say, here's an investment to person A, person B, simply because they trust you or simply because you seem promising. But if you're compliant with the legal laws of the country, the structure and the Companies Act, and you're able to have a good business structure, now you as a person, your attributes are simply added to the fact that your business is successful. But in all ways or form, everyone wants to deal with a company to ensure that at the end of it all, let's say everything comes burning down, I engage business with a company, not an individual. Because I've realized something, if the only point I was able to attract big investors or attract big individuals was the fact that they needed to work with a company, not an individual. And your character, your past knowledge can only go so much if you're an entrepreneur. So I would say when you're starting it out, you don't have to look at it as something you have to do now if you have nothing on the plate. However, the moment you get traction, it should be your number one priority, as ensuring that your growth shall not be hindered and also that your sustainability in the industry is guaranteed.
I'm so proud of you, Quest, because lot of applications that we get and from in Startup Shujaa, from the new entrepreneurs, mostly the young people, they fail to understand the importance of compliance. And as you said, and very rightly said, that investors will not invest on an individual, whatever promising you are, but they will invest in an entity, business entity. And for that, first and foremost thing, register a company and get compliant with all the Companies Act and income tax things. So yes, what you say, I'm so happy that even being so young, you have understood the importance of it. So Path, I'll come to you. Yours is at a pre-seed level, but still I would like to ask you, how aware are you about this compliant thing and how you want to go about it?
Yeah, it's very tempting to ignore this.
Yes.
It's very tempting to just not be compliant at all as you're starting out because there's cost attached to it.
Yes.
When you're a startup, the number one thing in your mind is, how can I do this without spending so much money? And there's also a lot of complexity to it, globally and in Kenya, more so in Kenya. As much as there's so many avenues available, unified business permit and such, but there's still a certain level of complexity to it. So it's very tempting to just wait until you're big. But one thing I've realized is, like Quest said, nobody will work with you. So as much as you're trying to save money, it's just going to start coming out of your own pocket because nobody wants to fund you. Nobody wants to work with someone who is not registered as a business, someone who does not have their house in order. Because until you yourself also register your business, you don't take it that seriously. Trust me. Because at that stage, you're still like, okay, if it doesn't work, it's okay. It brings a different level of fire in you that, okay, now we have to go for it. Now we can start looking at things more seriously than we were before. So it is tempting, but it's very important to just get it done with. Because once you do it, and if you don't do it and you keep growing, you get to a stage where it becomes hard to get compliant because you're so used to the things that are not going on, and you now also have to adhere to certain laws when you get compliant. So it's better to do it early, get used to the system, get to know what exactly you have to do. For example, filing taxes, right? It's very important. It's something that they do teach it, the carrier does teach it, but it's not really available. So it's for you to learn, and you can only learn when you're at this stage. So it's best to get compliant as early as possible and learn how to do things by yourself. Because once you get to a very later stage in your business, it becomes too tough. too tough. Because how do you define that, okay, sorry, there's a business this year, but I'm making 20 million already. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That is too challenging because then you raise questions. Even now investors will ask questions.
Exactly.
So what were you doing before? Right? So it adds legitimacy to your business and to yourself. Credibility.
Yes, it's a very valid point, as you are saying, because then it becomes very difficult to justify. And if you have gone for this compliance and registering yourself at a later stage, then you cannot prove to your investors or your clients that, no, I am actually old. I'm doing it for a few years.
Exactly.
They will say, no, you are just registered now, so you are new. So it's the biggest challenge. And I'm so happy that both of you are taking it so seriously. And whoever our viewers are, you must learn from what they're saying, that compliance is not a troublemaker. It's not something troublesome. And it is, yes, it involves cost, but that cost is important. Trust me, if you spend that money, you get a much more return. I know some startups who had to actually close down because they were not compliant, and it's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's our conversation is getting more and more interesting. I'm learning from you all, because I believe there is no end to learning. At any stage you can learn, and I'm learning from you all a lot. So Adishi, since you work in a multilateral development bank, who work in developing countries, including African continent, and also they have schemes for startups. So if you can tell me that what are the basic things that institutions like this look at in case of startups?
Yeah, I think specifically for MDBs, they tend to look at startups or SMEs, small medium enterprises, once they've sort of gotten up and running. So maybe 3 years into their work, where there's 3 years worth of financial statements that can be reviewed, and so on. But I don't think that that's the only way that you can access funds. The other way would be indirect fund accessing, which is a lot of MDBs also fund venture capitalists and private equity firms, who then go on to fund startups and SMEs and so on. And I think the basic housekeeping that needs to be done before you approach such institutions is cash flow statements, financial statements, being able to justify scalability, long-term sustainability, explaining your operational risk. And I think the basic due diligence steps that absolutely any financial institution, venture capitalist firm, anybody will look at is, firstly, they will have a review of your financial statements. Secondly, they'll also, speaking of compliance, have a look at self-declared corporate governance, ESG governance, etc. reports. Then there tends to be a stage where there's an interview with the management team, trying to understand not just what the product or service that is being sold, but also who is selling it, what are their credentials, looking at past performance, seeing whether there's an increase and a steady flow of income. And then lastly, they'll do their own independent compliance checks.
So again, the compliance thing is coming round and round. So I'm sure by now our viewers also understand to the extent how compliance is important for us. So now I would like to come to another subject, that is education. So Quest, you always knew that you want to be an entrepreneur, or at least I would say when you started your undergrad education, by now you kind of settled your mind that you want to be an entrepreneur. Still, you are completing your formal education with a very prestigious institution. So I would like to know from you that if you what do you think is the importance of education in developing the career path for any youth, whether that person wants to be a professional or an entrepreneur, whatever?
So personally, when I got into college, I'd say it really gave me a very big culture shock. Ideally, because I came from a Kenyan high school, so the system was very conservative. The way they only streamlined you to think content, how much can you absorb, how much can you learn, and we're very good at that. but you're not taught to think outside the box. So I really credit my university for really opening my mind and opening my mind to a point where I realized that there's so much potential available to you. However, in the course of learning, I realized that I cannot go into the world without having key fundamental character, key fundamental skills that I cannot learn anywhere else apart from school. So in my first 2 years, I really tried to absorb as much as possible, learning wise, reading, understanding, and I realized for me the business side of it really appealed to me. However, now I sort of say I could term it as impatience. I wanted to apply what I've learned. I wanted to see for myself the lesson which I could not learn and in class, I would say. I wanted to see, okay, I'm being taught about management. I'm being taught about marketing. I'm being taught about certain principles. I'm being taught about how to appeal to certain audiences. How do I test it out? I don't really have like a training ground or like a canvas to apply it. So that's, I think at that point in time, which I was like, now I feel confident to take my startup, because at that point in time is that I want to really put this concept into practice. So in the process of going through what I've been doing, I'm realizing that school education gives you the foundational theory. For example, if you meet a hurdle, how can you approach it? You're able to sit back and realize that I've gone through a simulation of this theoretically. Now I can now try to attack it practically. So I would say most of the things you'd hear is that around, especially in my industry, is that you'd hear that school is not important. Just get what you're doing and push on. I would say to some degree, I want simply to denounce the ones who have done so because they have really established themselves in that aspect. But it has never been a disadvantage. It has always been a plus. You know, whatever avenue, it has always built you up. Even for me, periodically, I went through a period of time where I was battling that conflict internally. Should I simply do what appears and stop school and continue what I'm doing, or should I just sit down and finish with school? So I sit down and had a really internal, deep thought with myself. Let me do a very good analysis. In terms of what a school has benefited me, I realized that apart from just offering me education, to offer me networking, but that's why I met Path. We were able to become very good friends from that. I was able to meet potential investors from there. I was able to meet potential clientele from there. So not only educational aspect, I would say school has built me up outside of the traditional content-based learning. I would put it in that aspect. So I was able to take those skills, take those knowledge and apply it to my startup, and it's propelled me faster than a lot of my peers. I would say, however, it strikes someone to really have a good balance of both, because it's not easy. I guarantee you, sometimes juggling school, juggling work, and you can't really mix the two. You can't come to school and complain that you've been working because you're a student, and you can't come to work and say you can't really denounce or you can't really ignore what you've been doing because this is what you're putting your time and effort into. But I would say education is very important in giving you the structure. I would say it gives you the skeleton of what you're doing. It's up to you to put the flesh into it. So for me, education, it is important. However, practicality of it, I would say a lot of people face the issue where that they have learned the content and then they sit on it. That is the actionable point now. Don't sit on what you're learning. Once you've absorbed information, once you've learned, please have the itch to apply, to test it out, to test the practicality and test the applicability of what you're doing. And that's where the world is your canvas.
Yeah, so well said that application is equally important as learning. So Parth, what is your take on this, that basic education? I'm not talking about that everyone has to go to PhD or I'm saying the basic education. How important do you think for anyone to have the basic education, whatever career path they're taking?
Yeah. I think it's very important to at least be educated on the very basic level, because it teaches you so many things. It teaches you so many things that entrepreneurship won't, right? And you can only succeed in entrepreneurship when you have that basic education. There's this saying that goes around nowadays is degrees are dead, skill is the new currency, right? But one thing I think people are really failing to understand is the skills are also built with where you're studying, how you study, right? There's certain skills you don't learn in the workplace. That's what you learn at the basic level. Emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, communication skills. These are built really at the basic education level. You don't go to an institution or you don't go to work without these skills. You don't get there, right? So these really serve as the foundation for you to get anywhere. Whether you're starting out, whether you want to become a professional, it's very important to have a basic theoretical foundation that can tell you exactly what you need, right? So it's very important for someone to always educate themselves, whether if they don't have formal education, but there's so many means available nowadays. right? You can open up YouTube, search videos out there, you can learn, right? It all depends on the person. So it's very important to have that foundation.
So rightly said. And Adishi, I'll come to you that yes, education is important as we all agree to it. So what do you think that how important it is to choose the correct line of education that can help you in your career path? And to be more elaborate, I would say that how important this decision is, whether this line of education suits your need, or rather than going for any popular any course which is popular.
Yeah, I think it's very important that everybody evaluates their, first of all, their strengths, what they want to do in the future, because some degrees like economics, finance, all of these, they're very popular. And I would even go as far as to say, a bit of a false sentiment around these degrees, thinking, oh, the moment I've graduated with an economics degree or a finance degree, I'm going to get a job like that, or I'm going to have all the skills I need to take the next step in my career. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think everybody has their own unique strengths. I know growing up in school, for some reason, a lot of teachers used to tell us, okay, you're good at something, great, but make sure that your weaknesses aren't pulling you down. Like, you need to work on your weaknesses as well to get that good at, be an all-rounder, be good at everything. I don't believe in that. I think you need to leverage your strengths. There's a certain ceiling that you'll reach when you try to be a bit of an all-rounder, or you focus too much on your weaknesses. But if you try and focus all your energy on your strengths, then you can really be outstanding and stand out. So I think it's very important to pick a degree that works for you. Even if it feels like there's a bit of a vacuum in the market at the time, you never know what future skills will be required. First of all, it's a very dynamic world. And also, I feel like, wouldn't you rather be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a very big pond? And obviously, touching upon what the guy said, like education, yes, it gives you the theory and all of that. All of that is well and good. But I think traditional education and higher education, it really shapes your way of thinking, your mindset. It makes you a critical thinker. Also, educational institutions, they give you access to other like-minded individuals. They give you access to research materials. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you are on the same page on this education thing. And yes, it also resonates my thought. I personally believe education is very important. We should not ignore that. But at the same time, we do not necessarily have to go for something which 10 others are doing. And there should not be any inhibition attached to it. That, okay, if I don't do this, that means my life is end. It should not be the way. I mean, no one should be judged by that. Even I think parental pressure should not be there to put them in a certain path or something. I personally feel so. And it was such a enriching conversation with three of you. I have learnt a lot. I am sure my viewers have also learnt a lot. Thank you so much. And I wish all three of you very best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.